crack-a-lackin' everybody out there in YouTube land. It's the SJW your mother warned you about, Brainsmasher, back at you again with another video about metal. Got a bunch of new subscribers this weekend, thanks to the Immortal reaction video. Hope you liked it, hope you watched it, and if you're new, welcome. I hope I make your subscription worthwhile. I forgot the music. Okay, music's going. Now the music's going. Now that the music's going, I'll explain. My setup back there is still a fucking wreck because it's under construction. So we're listening to an album that I do have a copy of on CD. It is Dusk's self-titled record. We'll get into that later, and I'll explain further, but I hope you like it. So, yeah, the Immortal video took off way more than I expected. Fucking nuts. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Got a ton of comments, a lot of stuff that I don't have the time to respond to, but mainly, I guess all I have to say is, if a Bath is immortal, then why did a Bath solo record suck? And this album, so far, the single, is fucking awesome. That's all I have to say about that. So, instead of collection updates like I've done in the past, yada yada yada, I'm trying to do 4 albums at a time, just kind of quick reviews, and these have recently come into my esteemed library in the last few weeks. So, let's just start with Dusk, since that's what we're listening to, and I bet you are curious about that. I'm sure you are. So, this is what we're listening to. This is Dusk, and this is a compilation of their only full-length album, self-titled, coupled with the EP, Majestic Thou in Ruin, which is what you see here. An original copy popped up on Facebook for sale from the band, sealed, the other day, and I couldn't believe it. Copies of this go on Discogs for over $100, and I picked it up for a lot less than that, I'll tell you that. So I'm super happy to have what was once a sealed copy. I just opened it a few minutes ago, and haven't played it yet, because I don't need to, because it's been reissued on this beautiful release by Dark Symphonies. So pick this up, it's super cheap. It's some great killer, like sludged out, sort of doomy death metal. It harkens back to that mid-90s sort of style, if you'll remember. It's kind of got this like romantic, sort of gothic sort of feel to it. I really appreciate the death metal of that era that wasn't all about fucking murder and suicide and gore and guts and shit like that. I mean, I like that kind of stuff sometimes, but it was the more unique, more intelligent, more well thought out, sort of higher brow, I guess, death metal, if you will, bands like Dusk. And this stuff is just so fucking wonderful. Talk about just some of the heaviest death metal production I have ever fucking heard. There's lots of synth all over the place, kind of giving it some tasty harmonies going on. A couple of pictures in the booklet. So yeah, another Dark Symphonies fucking release. I just can't say enough good things about what they are doing. Lovingly reissuing albums without changing the artwork, and doing something, bringing albums back to life that you can't get for a cheap cost these days. So I really appreciate what Ted and Dark Symphonies and the Crypt are doing. So staying in the death metal vein, this is Monstrosities in Dark Purity. Now, I won't go into too much detail about this, because I first found out about this record because of my buddy Justin Stubbs' review of it. Justin Stubbs is another great YouTuber. You should check him out. I'll put the link down below. So I don't want to step on his toes by re-reviewing an album that he already reviewed. Definitely go check out his review of it. But so his review just compelled me to definitely want a copy of this, and this would be the first Monstrosity album that I ever bothered to pick up a copy of. I don't know why. Just really never got around to it, I guess. But this album is fucking phenomenal. Came out in 1999. Super highly skilled death metal. It's just sits right upon the precipice of when skilled death metal musicians just almost had nowhere to go, because they wrote themselves into a corner, making some of the most technical and highly skilled and just mind-blowing sort of metal without relying upon any sort of production or studio value to add any sort of interest or atmosphere or whatever other elements to the albums. And so this is just such a fine example of that era of death metal that I had kind of forgotten, I guess, that I had such a appreciation for. Of course, you're going to say the album artwork is wretched, and I'm going to agree with you, but it has nothing to do with how great of an album this is. So this is the first record that, I'm going to forget his name, Jason something, sang on after Corpse Grinder left Monstrosity for the infamous Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, so all the artwork on here is kind of shoddy. So now, about the availability of this album, kind of under question. Right after I watched Justin Stubbs' review of this, I thought, I'm going to get a copy of it. So I looked it up on Discogs, and the cheapest one was like $40 fucking dollars. But I discovered that it was on sale by $40 by a record store that I frequent in Madison. So I decided back on record store day just to drive up to Madison for the hell of it, and just see what they had. And so they had this copy, and the funny thing about it was record store day was going on, but they had none of the releases from record store day, and that was just like the perfect way of celebrating record store day. And on top of that, every used CD was half off, and every new CD was 25% off. So I went fucking ballistic buying things, and this was probably the biggest gem I got. So this was $20 instead of $40, if you can see the price tag there. So I'm super hyped to pick that up. Check out Stubbs' review of it. Is there something else I was going to say about it? I don't know. It's great. But next, we've got an album that my buddy Marty from Binderoon sent me in a package for free a couple of weeks ago, and I picked this up and I had no idea what it was. There's not a damn word of English on the outside of this thing. Really interesting artwork. I don't know, Aztec or Mayan. I'm not that well versed about it, so I'm not going to pretend that I am and step on my toes or someone else's toes by misappropriating any cultures that are portrayed herein. If you don't know what this is, though, I'm going to pretend to pronounce it. Tliltic Tlapoyoyak. Yeah, that's my attempt. This is a compilation of all, if I'm not mistaken, of the Black Twilight Circle bands. Black Twilight Circle, quick rundown if you're familiar with Blazebirth Hall or Allegiance Noir. This is a Southern Californian group of black metal bands. Some of them are fucking amazing. Some of them are but they are all portrayed in this. And this is kind of the perfect thing for me because years and years ago, I was familiar with a couple of these bands. I kind of never really got around to buying some of their stuff. Some of it I really did like, but their stuff was so limited that you were never able to pick up copies of it. So since all that stuff was so limited, and I'm talking like back in 2010, 9, 8, somewhere around there, I could never pick this stuff up. It was like cassette-only releases, so I just said, you know what? Fuck all that stuff. I don't need to worry about it. I downloaded some of it, and since then I haven't really gone back to my MP3s of these bands. So this is a fun revisiting of some of the bands that I have enjoyed in the past already, like Dolor Votre, Axeman, of course Arismenda is fucking great. I had forgotten how much I liked Muknal and Tukaria. And then there's a couple of new bands on here that I wasn't familiar with, like Calathon or Aquali. And what's the other one? Kampalan. There's a ton of great stuff on here, so I gotta recommend the hell out of this release. If you're not familiar with what's been going on with the Black Twilight Circle, I'm not sure what year this came out, but Ajna Offensive put this out a couple of years ago, and you can pick it up for really cheap, and I can't recommend enough doing so. Every band has their own page with a little bio or picture, lyrics. There is quite a bit of exclusive material on here, and even if it's not exclusive, it's probably pretty rare and expensive to get some of this material on any format. So it's definitely worth picking up, and it's just such an interesting thing to come across. These guys are just like talking about not Nordic stuff, not any kind of sort of satanic sort of mysticism or any of that kind of stuff. They're like definitely, I'm not saying they all are, but A lot of the stuff is influenced by Mayan and Aztec gods and all that kind of folklore and stuff. I'm not all that well versed in it, but what I have seen of it is fascinating. So it's really interesting to hear a culture of bands representing something new to the black metal genre. Not only that, but style-wise and production-wise, there's a whole breadth, a whole new world, really, of black metal micro genres and styles being represented here. It's a fascinating listen for 2 discs. Can't recommend picking that up enough. Tliltic Tlapoyok. I hope you like my mispronunciation there. Last but not least, so Svart Records, if you're not familiar, puts out a ton of great stuff. And I found myself over the course of a couple of weeks, I would buy something not even knowing what label put it out, or wanting to buy something not knowing what label put it out. And Svart Records just kept on coming up over and over. And I just decided one day I'm going to look at every single artist on Svart Records and see what's kind of familiarize myself with them as a label. And it was kind of a weird thing for me to do because they have a lot of indie rock, sludge, just really all different kinds of bands, not metal. I'd say maybe half of their roster is some kind of metal. I mean, it's not like I listen to every single band. There's a ton of bands on Svart Records. But I kind of dabbled through. I looked up stuff that looked interesting on their YouTube page. And there's a lot of stuff that isn't metal that is interesting. But one of the things that really caught my eye and wound up just being a total earworm for me was this project right here, or band or solo project called Kimi Karki, K-I-M-I-K-A-R-K-I. And of course, I'm going to put links down below for everybody to check this stuff out down below. So if you're not familiar with Kimi Karki, this is a solo acoustic project of, I guess his name's Kimi Karki in this project. I'm not sure if that's his real name or not, but the guy is from the band Reverend Bizarre. So this is his most recent project. This is the first full length from Kimi Karki called The Bone of My Bones. And the reason I picked this up was because Svart Records was having a hell of a sale the other day. And I decided to pick up a couple of things that I wouldn't have ordinarily sprung for. I was hoping that the second Kimi Karki album, which is actually better than this one, would be on sale, but it wasn't. So I think I really will need to pick up the second album. I think it's called Eye of an Eye or something like that. Eye for an Eye, something like that. It is fucking amazing, and I've been listening to the shit out of it. Patrick Walker from 40 Watt Sun does a guest vocal appearance on that album. So it's a great album, but this is the only one that I actually have a copy of. If you're not familiar with this stuff, I guess, if just to give you some sort of idea of what it's like, the thing that keeps popping into my head is that it's almost like Leonard Cohen. Maybe a more modern, a little more light, I guess, in style, or a little bit less depressive, I guess, than Leonard Cohen, because some of Leonard Cohen's stuff, the poetry of his lyricism is just dense, and I almost find myself distracted by how intense the metaphors he uses to paint these lyrical pictures in his songs are. This one, and Kimi Karki, I guess, in comparison, is a lot more about the instrumentation, and the lyrics are a lot less daunting and immersive, I guess, than something like Leonard Cohen. But those two, I think, coincide pretty well, and I think that's an apt comparison for the two. So that is it. It feels kind of short, but I like going a little bit more in-depth about fewer releases, and hope you liked it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Take care.